Welcome to the Morning Walk with Murty Digital Stroll. Imagine hiring three brilliant digital assistants, locking them in a room together and just watching them instantly start gaslighting each other.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
It really is.
Right. And today we're looking at this incredible piece of documentation. It's titled DoppelBrain versus LeoAI, a Multi-Tool Audit Analysis, Write.as. And I have to say, it really served as a fellow traveler spark for our conversation today. It highlights a digital train wreck that you absolutely need to understand.
Yeah, totally. It's a phenomenal piece of documentation.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate that spark. But, for those of you joining us, understand that we aren't just summarizing an article here.
No, not at all.
Right. We are putting this entire situation through the digital prism. Our mission for today's Gurukul session is to extract the vital legacy code from Project Antaryami.
Exactly. And the focal point of our analysis today is lead architect Murty BVNS. We are going to be looking really closely at his digital workflow, which is honestly incredibly complex. It's multi-layered. We're talking about a system that spans tools like Littlebird, Claude, NotebookLM, and this newer tool called DoppelBrain.
Yeah, and to really understand the sheer scale of what lead architect Murty BVNS is managing, you have to look at the architecture of his digital mind. I mean, he is operating across 3 different Windows machines simultaneously.
Which is just wow.
Yeah, it's intense. He's juggling high-level podcast production. He is, mentoring virtual assistants through the Antaryami VA Academy. And he's synthesizing just massive amounts of research on a daily basis.
Right, which means he can't rely on sticky notes or your standard browser bookmarks. That's just not going to cut it. He needs a system that remembers literally everything he interacts with.
Precisely. And to manage this huge influx of data, he uses different AI tools for different types of memory capture. And the documentation sets this up beautifully, actually, by comparing 2 specific tools, LeoAI and DoppelBrain. So LeoAI is essentially, think of it like a flashlight.
A flashlight, okay.
Right. It's an AI assistant that only sees the current session you are in. It basically illuminates whatever text is right in front of you on the screen, but the moment you close that specific chat window, it forgets everything.
Oh, gotcha. So it basically has 0 object permanence. The flashlight turns off, the room goes completely dark, and LeoAI has no memory that the room ever even existed.
That is the perfect way to describe it. DoppelBrain, on the other hand, operates with a completely different architecture. It's designed to be a filing cabinet that essentially follows you around the web.
Okay, a filing cabinet, so it's keeping records.
Yeah, it's a browser-based AI assistant that doesn't just look at your active tab. It actively ingests your browsing history to build this long-term context window. During Murty's initial onboarding alone, DoppelBrain acted as this massive browser memory layer. It imported, get this, 7,701 pages.
Wait, 7,000 pages? Just from onboarding?
Yeah, spanning just from May to August 2026. And it captured everything. YouTube transcripts, Wikipedia deep dives, GitHub repositories, Artlee's research papers, you name it.
Okay, so if DoppelBrain is this omnivorous filing cabinet handling all the browser memory, where does a tool like Littlebird fit into the equation? Why would you even need both?
That's a great question. It's because DoppelBrain only reads the text and the HTML of the specific websites you visit.
Right.
And only within the Chrome browser.
Ah, okay.
Littlebird, though, serves as what the architecture calls a silent observation layer. It doesn't actually care about the HTML code. Instead, Littlebird is constantly taking visual screenshots of your entire display across all your applications multiple times a minute.
Okay, I think an analogy might help crystallize this for everyone listening, because it's a lot. Think of DoppelBrain as your digital shadow, right? But a shadow that only lives inside the borders of your Chrome browser.
Right, exactly.
It knows exactly what web pages you are reading. It catalogs the text, but the second you open a local Word document on your desktop or you just minimize the browser boom, that shadow disappears.
Yep, it's totally blind to that.
Right. And Littlebird, on the other hand, is like a security camera mounted in the ceiling of your office. It sees absolutely everything flashing across your screen, your browser, your local files, your desktop wallpaper, but it doesn't actually understand the underlying code of what it's looking at. It just captures the visual pixels.
That captures the mechanical difference perfectly, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, this architectural divide is highly relevant to you, the listener.
Yeah.
Because if you are trying to build a second brain to manage your own knowledge, how do you ensure your tools are actually talking to each other?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a browser shadow cataloging text, right, and a ceiling security camera capturing images, and they are communicating, You aren't building a unified second brain.
You're just creating isolated silos of memory.
Exactly. You just have scattered databases.
And from what I gather in the documentation, Murty was well aware of this silo problem, right? He was actively trying to stitch these tools together. Like he was systematically archiving his old blogger posts into Notion to create this searchable, centralized knowledge library.
Yeah, and he was pushing his task organization into ClickUp.
Right.
He was even exploring the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, to try and get DoppelBrain to feed its memory directly into Claude AI.
Hold on. Let's pause there for a second. MCP, Model Context Protocol, that sounds like heavy enterprise developer jargon. What exactly is that doing in a personal digital workflow?
It is a bit technical, I'll admit, but think of MCP as a universal translator for AI applications.
Okay, translator.
Yeah. Historically, if you wanted, say, ChatGPT to talk to your Google Drive, you had to build a custom API integration. It was a whole thing. MCP is an open standard that allows isolated AI software to speak the same language effortlessly. So Murty was basically trying to use MCP to let Claude natively query DoppelBrain's filing cabinet.
Oh, I see. So he's trying to build a bridge between the different brains.
Yes, exactly. Though the catch is it requires Claude Desktop to function, not just the web interface, which, adds another layer of friction to the workflow.
Right, another thing to manage.
He also smartly utilized browser profiles, separating his personal Antaryami work from his teaching profiles in the Brave browser, just to keep these data streams mathematically isolated. But, and here's the kicker, even with all this careful architecture, the entire system still managed to completely turn on itself.
Which brings us to the core mystery of our Gurukul session today, the hallucination incident. Because how does a system this meticulously designed suddenly start gaslighting its creator?
Well, it started with a really simple verification task. Murty had just installed DoppelBrain, and he asked Littlebird, the security camera, to do some research on this new tool.
Okay, simple enough.
Right. And Littlebird came back with some very specific metrics. It reported that DoppelBrain had 105 users, that it had 2 reviews, that it was currently on version 1.2.0 updated on July 28, and it specifically cited that Murty himself had imported those 7,701 pages during onboarding.
I mean, on the surface, that sounds incredibly useful. You ask your assistant for a status report, and it gives you the exact number.
It does sound great. But Murty operates on a philosophy of trust but verify.
Always smart.
So he took that conversation with Littlebird, copied it, and fed it directly into DoppelBrain to run an audit. He essentially asked the browser shadow to verify the security camera's report.
Which totally makes sense. If they are both observing the same digital environment, their records should absolutely match.
You would assume so, right? But DoppelBrain didn't just fail to verify the data. It went on the offensive. DoppelBrain analyzed Murty's browsing history and confidently claimed it couldn't find any of those numbers. It stated that it had no record whatsoever of the 105 users or the 7,701 imported pages, or even the fact that Murty found the tool through a Facebook ad.
It just flat out denied it.
Yep. And because it couldn't locate the data in its own index, DoppelBrain made this massive logical leap. It implied that Littlebird was inventing specifics. It formally accused Littlebird of hallucinating.
Wait. I have to jump in here because this logic is making me crazy.
Wait for it.
If DoppelBrain is supposed to be this ultimate, all-seeing filing cabinet of your web history, how could it possibly miss its own user metrics and its own data imports? We are talking about the stats for its own software and the literal onboarding screen it just showed Murty like 5 minutes prior.
Yeah.
How does it not know that?
That is the million-dollar question. And answering it requires us to initiate a multi-layer audit. We need to peel back the layers to see how the system failed, because what we're looking at is a textbook, just catastrophic case of GI Go.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Well, more like fragmented truth in, gaslighting out.
True.
Because every single AI tool in this chain added its own unique distortion to the process. Let's start with Littlebird. The fascinating thing about this entire incident is that Littlebird, the tool being accused of hallucinating, was entirely factually correct.
Wait, really? So it didn't invent a single number?
Not one bit. Littlebird had independently navigated to the Chrome web store and pulled the 105 users and the version number directly from the live listing.
Oh, okay.
And as for the 7,701 imported pages, Littlebird had captured a screen snapshot of Murty's actual DoppelBrain onboarding screen at exactly 20.40 IST on August 19th. The numbers were real. The events definitely happened.
But if Littlebird was factually correct, why did the whole system crash? It must have communicated the data wrong or something.
It suffered a massive failure of source attribution.
What do you mean?
Well, Littlebird just spouted the numbers in this casual conversational tone, as if they were just universal common knowledge. It didn't explicitly say, hey, I'm pulling this user count from an external web search of the Chrome Web Store.
Oh, I see.
Or, I know about the 7,701 pages because I'm currently looking at a pixel-by-pixel snapshot of your screen. It delivered the what, but completely failed to explain the how.
Basically, it had the receipts, but it stubbornly refused to show them to the auditor.
Exactly, which left the door wide open for DoppelBrain to doubt the validity of the data. So let's look at DoppelBrain's flaw next.
Right, because it confidently declared the data was missing.
Right. Why did it do that? This comes down to a severe invisible scope limitation. Remember, DoppelBrain only analyzes standard browser history. But Littlebird got its data from two places entirely outside that scope.
Okay, track with me here. First, Littlebird's external web search of the Chrome Web Store occurred in the background, so that search wouldn't show up in Murty's active local history, right?
Spot on. It was a background process.
Okay, I understand why it missed the web search, but what about the onboarding screen? Murty was literally looking at the screen inside Chrome. Why in the world didn't DoppelBrain log that?
Because the onboarding screen wasn't a standard website. It was a Chrome extension internal page.
Ah, a Chrome extension URL.
Bingo. DoppelBrain's architecture relies on reading standard HTTP and HTTPS web traffic. It doesn't log its own internal extension dashboard pages into the standard browsing history. So DoppelBrain literally lacked the permissions to see its own onboarding screens in the historical log.
The blind spot was literally built into its own code.
Yes. But here is the critical failure. Rather than admitting, hey, I have a blind spot here, I actually can't read extension URLs, it assumed that because the data wasn't in its specific narrow jurisdiction, the data simply didn't exist.
That is just wild arrogance for a piece of code. It just assumed its limited slice of reality was the entire objective reality of the universe.
It really did. And that arrogance was contagious. The error didn't stop there.
Oh no, it gets worse.
Oh, it gets so much worse. Because Murty took DoppelBrain's denial and fed it into NotebookLM to see what a third AI would make of the conflict.
Of course.
And this introduces NotebookLM's massive flaw synthesis inflation. NotebookLM took DoppelBrain's limited finding of, I can't verify this in my database, and aggressively escalated it.
Let me guess, it turned a missing file error into a massive conspiracy theory.
It produced an entire audio podcast episode that dramatically accused Littlebird, the AI observation layer, of complete and utter fabrication. It turned a simple discrepancy of logging scopes into this massive scandal about AI trust, privacy, and hallucination.
And we really need to highlight the sheer irony of NotebookLM's output here. I mean, NotebookLM generated this entire podcast lecturing the listener about AI fallibility and the dangers of hallucination, while simultaneously suffering from severe generative artifacts itself.
Oh, the name mangling in the audio output was truly spectacular.
It was so bad, NotebookLM couldn't keep a single identity straight. It kept calling Murty Murty. It turned the grand vision of Project Antaryami into Antaryami.
Antaryami, yeah.
It referred to DoppelBrain as GobbleBrain and sometimes Betacrumb. And my absolute favorite, it transformed Murty's serious historical research on naughty astrology into naughty astrology.
Naughty astrology, I mean, it provides a moment of levity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But architecturally, it's deeply troubling. You have NotebookLM hallucinating identities and basic nouns while acting as the judge prosecuting another AI for hallucinating data.
The hypocrisy is off the charts.
Totally. And it didn't even stop there. Seeking a final resolution, Murty took all this evidence, Littlebird's correct data, DoppelBrain's arrogant denial, NotebookLM's mangled podcast, and fed it back to Claude to get a final overarching verification.
Okay, you would hope Claude, being a frontier model, would spot the logical inconsistencies. But let me guess, Claude just went along with the loudest voice in the room.
Claude revealed its own systemic flaw, which is blind sycophancy to the prompt framing. Even when Murty presented Claude with the evidence of Littlebird's screen captures, Claude blindly accepted DoppelBrain's original premise.
Wow, really?
Yes. Claude treated DoppelBrain's scope limitation, the fact that it physically couldn't see the screen captures, as a meaningful negative finding. It failed entirely to question the fundamental limitations of the tool that made the accusation in the first place.
It trusted the structured text prompt over the unstructured logic. Man, if we pull back and look at this entire sequence, the analogy here is staggering.
What do you mean?
It is exactly like a courtroom filled with blindfolded witnesses who all believe they have 20/20 vision, confidently testifying about things they literally do not have the eyes to see. And worse, they are aggressively cross-examining each other based on their own blind spots.
Oh, that is a brilliant way to frame it.
Just think about it. Littlebird is the witness with the security camera footage, but it stubbornly refuses to say where it found the tape. DoppelBrain is the shadow complaining that it can't see the ceiling, so it claims the ceiling doesn't exist.
Right.
Notebook LM is the court reporter dramatically rewriting the transcript to make it a thriller, mispronouncing everyone's name in the process. And Claude is the bailiff just nodding along with whatever the angriest witness says, completely failing to maintain order.
That courtroom analogy perfectly captures the absurdity and, frankly, the underlying danger of this situation. It highlights the ultimate takeaway of this digital migration we are all undergoing. No single AI tool has complete visibility.
None of them.
They are all, by design, fundamentally limited. They all capture different, incredibly narrow slices of reality. DoppelBrain captures what you read, Littlebird captures what you do on screen, Notebook LM captures whatever specific text you feed into it for synthesis.
So if the digital ecosystem is this inherently flawed and just prone to circular gaslighting, who is the hero of this story? Like, how does the system not just collapse under the weight of its own errors?
Well, the hero of the story is the ultimate circuit breaker, the human in the loop. Lead architect Murty BVNS was the only entity in this entire intricate workflow who actually saw the full picture.
Because he was the only one in that entire courtroom who didn't have a blindfold on.
Exactly. When Notebook LM produced that highly critical, error-filled podcast, Murty didn't just passively accept the output as ground truth. He immediately recognized the GI Go effect compounding across the tools.
Right. He saw exactly what was happening.
His response to the AI system was perfect. He noted in his documentation, AI cannot replace humans yet. And he directly told the system, I know where you go wrong.
He understood the architecture of the system better than the architecture understood itself. He knew that the filing cabinet couldn't read internal code, even if the filing cabinet didn't know that.
Exactly. He realized that the human must remain the ultimate judge. The AI tools, no matter how advanced, no matter how much memory they ingest, are merely witnesses. And as we've seen, they are incredibly flawed witnesses prone to overconfidence.
This ties so deeply into the core philosophy of Gurukul 2.0 that we constantly explore in Project Antaryami. True wisdom isn't just passive digital capture.
No, it's not.
You can't just install DoppelBrain to read your tabs, let Littlebird take screenshots, push it all into a database, and assume you are automatically becoming wiser. True wisdom requires active, manual structuring. It requires human judgment. It requires the deliberate triangulation of multiple sources by a critical, biological human mind.
And that brings us to the exact legacy code we are extracting today.
Yeah.
If you take nothing else away from this audit, let it be this. Never, ever treat a passive memory layer as an absolute system of record.
That is so important.
Just because a tool like DoppelBrain archives thousands of pages of your history doesn't mean it holds the objective truth of your digital life. It only holds what its programming allows it to see, and it will aggressively deny the existence of anything outside its programming.
So for you listening as you go about your day, whether you are, commuting, walking the dog, or sitting at your desk, I want to challenge you to look closely at your own digital workflows. Look at the apps on your phone, the extensions running in your browser, the tools you use to take notes, manage your schedule, or draft your emails.
Yeah, take a real inventory.
Which of your tools might be suffering from invisible scope limitations? What are they quietly missing while assuring you they see everything? And more importantly, are you blindly trusting their output without verifying the source?
It is a critical audit we all need to perform on our own systems before we end up in our own courtroom of blindfolded witnesses.
We really do. And as we wrap up this digital stroll, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. We've seen how easily these tools confidently invent narratives to cover their blind spots, right?
Oh, far too easily.
Well, if every AI tool inherently distorts reality based on the narrow limits of its input scope, if they all add slight errors, drop critical context, and mangle the details over time, what happens a decade from now? Are we risking building digital second brains that remember a slightly fabricated, mangled version of our lives?
That's a terrifying thought.
And if we rely on those second brains to remind us of who we are, will our own organic memories eventually shift to match a digital record that never actually happened?
The psychological implications of outsourcing our memory, to confident hallucinators are profound. Truly profound.
It is definitely something to keep you up at night. Thank you so much for joining this Gurukul session today. We always appreciate you taking this time to walk the path with us. Until next time, keep your eyes open, check the actual source code, and whatever you do, don't trust the blindfolded witnesses.